From slave to serf. Today is June 17th, so in a couple days it'll be Juneteenth, which is a federal holiday celebrating freedom from slavery. Back in 1865, the Union Army went in and told the people in Texas that they were free, so that's what marks Juneteenth. And then about 6 months later, the United States Congress passed the 13th Amendment to the Constitution that abolished slavery and involuntary servitude. Now that left open voluntary servitude. And also in that text in the 13th Amendment, it talks about how it abolishes slavery and involuntary servitude in the United States and all of their jurisdiction, meaning the jurisdictions of each state. And then the following year, the 14th Amendment was passed by the United States Congress, and that created the U.S. citizen. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. So now they created a new citizen, a U.S. citizen, a federal citizen. And that, so when someone voluntarily subjects themselves to this jurisdiction as a U.S. citizen, they have basically dual citizenship: citizen of the state and citizen of the federal government. And so in the 13th Amendment, the United States left open voluntary servitude, which means you could choose to be a servant. And that's what they did. Basically, the deep state of the United States created the feudal system with the 14th Amendment, creating so a U.S. citizen is property of the federal government and a servant of the federal government with no God-given natural rights that are protected by the Bill of Rights. The government could do anything it wants to a U.S. citizen. However, it does use the Bill of Rights as a guideline to how they treat the U.S. citizens. But they don't have God-given natural rights protected by the Bill of Rights. However, if a person chooses to volunteer out and declare that they are not a federal U.S. citizen, 14th Amendment citizen, and just a state citizen, what is referred to as a national, because a citizen of a state is also a citizen of the nation, which is where you get the word national, but you're not subject to the U.S. code or all the regulations, the duties and privileges that comes with being a U.S. citizen, a federal citizen. So yes, you can, by simply using an affidavit, declare that you are not a U.S. citizen, you're just a national with God-given rights, and send that to the Secretary of State of the United States, who now is Marco Rubio. And that's all you need to do. It's as simple as that. And then you are no longer choosing to be a serf or a voluntary servant of the United States government. Obviously, they don't want people to know that. When we celebrate Juneteenth now, it's really a mockery. It's mocking U.S. citizens, black and white, that are now volunteer servants or serfs with civil rights, duties and privileges granted by the government instead of free people with God-given rights. So Juneteenth is meant to be a mockery. Should have been a celebration, but instead they turned it into a mockery.